Hey y'all, welcome back to the Yes We Can podcast. Today I have my friend John Zarbock on. I cannot wait to have this conversation with him and share all the good things about both himself and the business that he owns, BioFit. BioFit is the sponsor of this show today, so hang tight, sit back, and grab a notepad because we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today.
Heck yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, this is good. I'm excited. We were talking before the show about why you're here. And I think people really, listen in on this because, I have people on, different companies on to share their stories, which I want you to share your story. And then I want to offer to my people the best options. And so from a workout standpoint, you guys know I'm a health and wellness coach. I teach fitness. There is nothing like what we're about to talk about. And I'm not just saying this because you sponsored the show. I legit have not heard or seen anything like this. And so I hope that people really soak that in today. So
me too.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you saying that. And like we were saying before, I've been on a lot of different podcasts, talked about this with a lot of different people all around the country, all around the world. And you are the only one who has actually been in, used the machines more than once, you've referred people to me already, friends and people that and you've put your reputation and credibility on the line to, just tell people that they should come experience what it is. So I'm infinitely grateful for that.
Yeah.
But I think it means more, not just for our conversation, but for your audience, to know that this is something that you're not just saying it because,
Correct.
We know each other, we're members of AU, or I sponsor the show or whatever. I know that you genuinely mean it. And so that means a lot to me, but I hope that also translates. Into the audience. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also have you on my show to talk about it because I do believe in it. And so I want people to know and hear about it from your standpoint. And I want people to try it because it just makes complete sense. So first, let's talk about who you are, just a brief background, where you come from, how you got to this point in your life where you're leading people and trying to get them healthier. I know you have a strong background in all sorts of things, but the floor is yours. Let's tell people who is John Zarbock?
Well, let's see. I guess on paper, I grew up in South St. Louis. I've lived here my whole life. I joined the Army at the age of 18. I enlisted as a private in the reserves, and not too far after that, or long after that, I enrolled into ROTC at Washington University, and then transferred from Merrimack, from community college, to SLU to get my bachelor's on my undergrad. And through ROTC, just continued to do the Army thing. So the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer routine, and commissioned in 2006 and was immediately deployed overseas for my first tour to Kosovo, which is it's in the Balkans. It's its own country now, but it's on the southern tip of Serbia. So I deployed over there, and it wasn't too long. I've always been a gym rat. I was always one of the bros. I was always, since the age of 15, I started lifting weights, and I was in the gym every day, multiple hours. And so I was trying to chase the Arnold physique.
That's what I was going to ask. Was it the physique? Was it mentally? What was it that you were chasing after? And since I've paused you, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you for your support.
Yeah.
22 years, and I'm retiring in March.
Wow. Awesome.
So yeah, it's been a crazy journey in those last 22 years, for sure.
I can't imagine. And I just, forever grateful for people that put their lives on the line like that. So it, means a lot.
Yeah,
so.
It's one of the proudest things that I can say that I've achieved thus far in my life, is to not just serve the country, but to serve in protection and in support of the Constitution. Because I believe the Constitution to be the greatest piece of paper to ever have been written. The ideology and the philosophy that is behind the freedom, for our country, and being the greatest country ever so far. I literally can't imagine my life having not done that. Sometimes I think about, what could have been, had I not done that, but it's almost like a waste of my time to even really think about.
Totally. And it's like, we always talk on here about I feel like we all have a calling, and it's different, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I believe in God. I believe God brings us all to this earth to work together harmoniously to make this place a better place. But we all have different callings. And so it sounds like that was your calling and is your calling.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at the time I didn't feel like it. Like
Yeah.
I didn't join because of um any particular reason. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily a patriotic reason.
Mhm.
It was really more at that point in my life, I was very lost. I didn't
Mm.
have any guidance or any mentorship.
Mhm.
Um, my mom and I at the time were estranged, and
Mhm.
I didn't have anyone to talk me out of it. Um,
Mhm.
and so it at the time it seemed like the right thing to do because
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I really had any other option.
Mhm.
But it did not take very long for me to feel like it was exactly where I needed to be and where I
Mhm.
should have been.
Mhm.
And just looking back, I don't know if I don't know if I could have become the person that I am,
Mhm.
largely without that
Of
experience.
course not. And that's when I think in times of uneasiness and when you don't know, I think God is leading you somewhere. And then once you get there, it's like, oh,
Yeah, I mean,
makes
I feel
sense.
that's exactly how I feel about what it is that I do right
Mhm.
now
I know.
with
And
BioFit and with the technology that we use and the delivery system of strength training and quality
Mhm.
of life improvement. I've never been so confident and felt so sure
Mhm.
about my soul's purpose on this planet than what it is that I'm doing right now.
It's
It's
amazing.
the greatest feeling ever.
Yeah, not everybody gets to that point, but you got to be open to it, right?
Mhm.
And be fluid. And I'm okay. So let's talk more about that.
Yeah, so I've always been a trainer.
Mhm.
In the Army, I was training soldiers, I was
Mhm.
training junior officers. And on my first deployment, it was just because I was so familiar and enthusiastic about exercise
Mhm.
that I would spend all the time in the gym, and anybody who felt like they needed help, they just came to me. So it
Mhm.
was like I just became a natural trainer of people. First it was dozens, then it was hundreds over the course of years. And I've always been a gym rat. I've always just been the guy who worked out twice a day, every day,
Mhm.
no matter what, trying to, again, like chase that physique of Arnold. And also, like as a young man, all I really cared about was like being, attractive to girls.
Mhm.
And so like that was probably the main driver for me, which
Mhm.
isn't like the most productive necessarily reason.
But you got to be
But
honest.
it's the reason,
Yeah.
and I really loved to eat.
Mhm.
Like every meal for me was a food competition.
Mhm.
And so it was always about how much can I eat? How much pizza can I eat? How many pizza rolls can I eat? How many, you know, how much can I afford to spend at Taco Bell and how many, cheesy gordita crunches can I eat,
Oh my gosh, this is
Um,
painful for me.
I know it was 20 years ago. So it's, me
Yeah.
too. I would
You know what?
never.
20 years ago, I was eating pizza rolls too, I'm sure.
Yeah. And so not only like did I have, the motivation for the girls and for the
Mhm.
attention, but I also, and it wasn't until like many, many years later that I realized that like there's a thing called exercise bulimia. And so it wasn't because I was necessarily trying to get a particular physique. It was that I just didn't want to be fat. And so I was spending all that time just working off calories. And it just happens that just I would work out so much and so hard for so long, that the byproduct of that, luckily for me, because of the genetics mainly, is I had an aesthetically good physique. Um, but I just fell in love with the process. I fell in love with helping people, seeing them achieve things that
Mhm.
they didn't think was possible,
Mhm.
teaching them the right form and the right function,
Mhm.
and then obviously like getting the feedback from them, and
Mhm.
like wow, like thank you, like I hit a new PR today, or because in the Army it's all about PT, right? Physical fitness, or physical training. It's all about the PT test, right?
Mhm.
Because that's like the number one thing that can keep you from being able to go to school or get promoted, or being taken seriously in the
Mhm.
organization, especially as an officer, because we're expected to lead from the front. And if you're not in better shape than everybody else around you, then it's like I don't know if he's really that good of a leader. Like in the
Mhm.
Army, that's just a thing. And so I just got so much fulfillment from being that person
Mhm.
for those people. And I never it. throughout that whole time, I never even considered doing it as a career. I never considered even opening a business because I thought I would be a lifer and just only be in the Army. It was a part of the job, I guess. And so I took it that way. And in 2016, there was an episode in my career. Once you get to a certain rank in the military, politics kind of start taking over, and it isn't really so much about performance anymore. As it's about like whose team are you on, who likes you, who doesn't. And I got some negative attention from a senior officer who did not like me. She didn't like my approach to how I did things. And I wasn't a yes man. And I'm never a yes man. Like, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I will try to do it as softly as possible, but, you know, and as respectfully and professionally as possible in some cases. But I'm not just going to say the thing that you want to hear.
Right.
And so that cost me a lot of opportunity. And so I had to transition temporarily from doing the Army full time back in 2015, 2016 to figuring something out. And at that time, I'd been in for 13 years and I was like, well, what am I going to do?
What now?
Like, exactly. I was in a really bad place, like a really, really, really dark place. And the only thing that I could think of that I could do that I would somewhat enjoy and probably be able to be successful, you know, like financially doing, was training. So I started my own personal training company and started it with, you know, like 4 weights, a jump rope, and, you know, body weight exercises on the 3rd floor of my house in Tower Grove South. Like,
just one client at a
just
time.
one client. I was charging like $100 a month for like 8 training sessions. Like, it was bare bones, but I just wanted to start somewhere. And I knew that I hadn't really ever done it with clients, like paying clients before. So I didn't know my value, didn't know my worth. But I fell in love with it, just like I did when I was doing it for soldiers and junior officers in the Army. And I built it and I built it and I built it. And in 2017, with not a whole lot of notice, I got deployed again. So I got deployed for my 3rd time overseas to Kuwait, and that kind of restarted my. I was already kind of in my career, but it reignited my desire to want to just lean more into going into the Army full time. But then the deployment happened, and it was not a good deployment. Again, very dark places. And when I got back, I had decided like full-time Army is just not, like, that's not where I'm going to go. It's not, I'm done here. I want to go figure out who I am, what it is that I can achieve. And so I just made a very hard decision that I was going to just stay in the National Guard, do it part-time, continue to serve, do the things that I love. But I was going to go find out, like, what am I capable of? Like, what is my real potential outside of just being a G-man, you know? And so I restarted my company back up, bought a lot of equipment that I didn't need, but I had all this money saved, you know, from the deployment. Didn't really know anything about money, but I knew I had some, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I just did it. Like, that's kind of a.
What year was this?
2000. So I'm back from the deployment. This is 2018.
Okay.
So I had just gotten back, probably had $50,000 worth of like rogue equipment that I had bought from a CrossFit gym. And at that time, I was still twice a day, every day, 7 days a week. I was working out, and I thought I still held the mentality or the philosophy that if you weren't working out at least every day for an hour, right? Like, then you weren't going to make it. You weren't ever going to be the self that you wanted to be. You weren't going to achieve your goals, because that is what I believed, and that's what I was told. And that's through all the magazines and the videos and all my idols, right? The Mr. Olympias and the Mr. Americas and all the bodybuilders, like, that's what they do. And that's the culture. And that's like, so for all the other civilians, all the people that aren't as serious about exercise as I was, I figured, well, if you weren't going to at least do what I have going on, then you're just doing it wrong, or you don't want it that badly. Couldn't have been more wrong, but I didn't know at the time.
I think there's a lot of us that have that thinking. You think your way is the way. and based on outside influences. It's what we're told. It's what we're taught. It's
Well,
what
there
we
was no other
see.
option,
Right.
right? It
Of
was either
course.
you spend all your time in the
Mhm.
gym to get whatever the result is that you're trying to get,
Mhm.
or I don't know where it like I don't know where this became mainstream or what would be considered conventional wisdom or whatever, but like for somewhere, somehow, an hour, like you got to be in the gym in it for an hour. Like
Mhm.
it's somehow, somewhere that became
That's like the threshold. Like,
a
okay, I've been
standard.
here for an hour. I can go. Yeah,
That
totally.
that became some standard
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm.
And so that was the standard that I
Mhm.
applied to my life, and it
Mhm.
was the standard that I applied to my clients because I thought that that's how it went. Well, after
Mhm.
starting my business back up, getting home, spending all this money, buying all this equipment, a couple months later, the Army, in its infinite wisdom, decided that, well, no, we don't really want you to be part time. Like you want to be part time, we don't want you to be part time. And the Army gets what it wants. And at the time, I held a position and I had a certain particular set of skills that um, there wasn't too many other people in the state of Missouri, because I'm in the Missouri National Guard, but there weren't too many other people in the state that had the experience and the skills that I had.
Mhm.
And so because of that, they would reach back and say, okay, well, we have this exercise, we have this planning conference, we have. I was constantly gone. So I would be home for maybe a month or two, and then I'd be gone for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I'd be home for
So
3
how do you
weeks.
have
And
consistent
how do you run a
clients
business
in
like
front
that?
of business, right?
Right. And the clients I had, like, they didn't want to bail, but I was never around.
Right.
And so like I didn't give them much choice. And so I got to a point where I just like I wanted to quit, and I
Mhm.
felt like I just wasn't going to be able to make it, and it
Quit the
was
Army.
quit my business.
Quit business.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought that I was going to have to just capitulate
Yep.
and surrender and just
Right.
do what the Army says, because I signed the dotted line and I said that I would, and that's, I'm a man of my word, and I took an oath, and I
Mhm.
believed in what it is that I was doing. It just wasn't bringing me the fulfillment.
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I was reaching my potential.
Mhm.
And that's and for me, that puts me in a very dark place.
Mhm.
If I feel like I'm not on track to achieve what
Mhm.
I feel like I'm
Mhm.
capable of achieving, and I'm kind of being suppressed in a way, which at that time that's kind of what the feeling that I was getting from the Army. It doesn't feel good to me. But I felt like I guess I'm just gonna have to do this Army
Yeah.
thing
Your
until
hands are tied.
I'm done. Well, I got a seed of inspiration one night, and I went online and I said, "There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way for me to serve my country, do the thing that I want to do, which I really do and did love to do, even though you ever heard the expression, people don't quit their jobs, people quit bosses."
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like that's kind of where I was at. I I encountered some extreme toxic leadership
Mhm.
and some very just bad leaders,
Mhm.
and I just didn't want to have any part of it. And so that's what kind of
Mhm.
pushed me out the other direction. But then I obviously started getting pulled back more and more and more. And so I was just like, what am I going to do? Like
Mhm.
there's got to be a way.
Mhm.
There's got to be a way for me to serve my country and be in business and be
Mhm.
successful, because I know all of these people who are in the military and
Mhm.
who have their own businesses,
Mhm.
whether it's real estate
Mhm.
investors or you know uh, the National Guard people. I
Mhm.
mean, there's all sorts of people who are in the National Guard who own businesses. And I'm like, why not me?
Right.
Why can't I do this?
Where there's a will, there's a way. Like, I'm sure that's in
Yeah,
the back of your head. I mean, I think about that all the time.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And so as I'm investigating, as I'm researching, as I'm pleading, like with God and just being like, what am I going to do? Help me out.
Mhm.
I find this ad on Facebook, and I hate that this is the true story, because just Facebook is so terrible, at least in my opinion. But um, I see this ad for these machines, and it says you can use these exercise machines, these G Whiz things, for 20 minutes a week, and it's all the exercise you need.
Mhm.
And it could not have been more opposite and contrary to everything that I believed about exercise.
Mhm.
And I just got so angry because I see all these ads for
Yeah.
all these
Totally.
gimmicky machines, and
Gimmicky, yes. The
you know
quick the quick weight
yeah,
loss pill, the quick work
exactly.
this. Yeah,
And
totally.
I think to myself, like, God, like these people are cleaning up.
Mhm.
There's so much money being made,
Mhm.
and there's so many advertising dollars being spent trying to just get people to buy these at
And they
home.
do buy them.
And they do, and then they use them for a day or three or
Mhm.
maybe a few weeks, and then become clothes hangers. And it's just And I got so mad because I was just like, this isn't fair. It's not fair because I'm willing to do the work and I really want to help people. And, you know, me, boohoo. But I was like, no, like this, something sparked in me. I was like, enough is enough. Like this company, this claim, this 20 minutes a week, like enough is enough. I'm going to prove this wrong. Like I'm going to take them down and I'm going to show the world that this is a bunch of malarkey, and I'm going to expose them. So I got like really angry, and I started doing the research, and I was like, okay, this is where it came from. Okay. And it's starting to make a little bit more sense, but I don't care because 20 minutes a week is ridiculous and you need at least 2 hours a day. And if you're not going to at least do that, then you're not serious. Well, I drove to Nashville, which is the closest place I could find that had a machine like this, the very next day. Like I literally woke up the next day.
Stop.
And I drove to Nashville. And it was a Sunday, so they're closed. But I didn't know that because I didn't even think
to call
to see if they were open. I just drove to Nashville, and I got an Airbnb, stayed overnight, and I was literally waiting for the person to open up the next day.
I mean, how scary! I would.
I was like at the door.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, let me in. We're gonna do this thing. But I walk in, and it was the most beautiful studio, hardwood floors, like LED lights around these big mirrors, bulletproof everything, because the guy who owned the studio was a huge Dave Asprey fan, and he was a biohacker. And, you know, so this whole world that I had never even heard, I hadn't even heard of biohacking in 2018, had never heard of Dave Asprey, like all these things I had no clue about, because everything was just Arnold. Everything was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everything was bodybuilding, and everything was just throwing heavy things around and working out every day, and, you know, 5 and 6 reps and sets of everything. Well, I get on this machine called an ARX. It was their alpha machine. They have 2 machines, this company out of Texas. And in 5 minutes, I had the most humbling, exhausting exercise experience of my entire life. In 5 minutes, I had to throw the towel in. I had to surrender because I couldn't give anymore. Like I thought I was going to be able to beat this machine. Like I thought I was going to win this thing. And it ruined me. Like it was exhausting, but it was the best workout I'd ever had. Not in 20 minutes, in 5 minutes. And then my whole world just like crumbled. Everything that I thought was true, everything that I thought I knew, it just died like in an instant.
Let's pause here, because people may be thinking, yeah, right.
Everybody does.
Yeah, right.
I did too, which is why I don't get angry at people when they're just super skeptical.
Yeah.
Because I was too.
Right.
And I tried it.
Right.
I drove 4 hours one way for a 5-minute workout, and it was the greatest decision I'd ever made in my entire life.
And okay, so let's hang on. For those of you watching and listening, hang on, because this isn't a gimmicky, you know, it may sound too good to be true. Anything that sounds too good to be true oftentimes is, but I've done the workout. So let's continue to chat. I just want people, I want to hook them in and make sure that they realize, like, this is an incredible workout, and you'll explain why in such a short amount of time. And typically, what would you say? It's like 10 to 12 minutes of actual work being done. Like when I come in.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, some people get a little bit more than that if they have really good endurance.
Right.
Or if they're used to working out in large volumes of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, most of my clients average between 8 and 12, 13 minutes
of actual work,
of actual time doing exercise work in any given session. And I don't see clients more than twice a week because it's too much. There is what I did not know. There's a lot that I know now that I did not know. But what I didn't know was that there is a diminishing return to exercise. You know, I had heard a guy back after I had gotten home from Nashville, and I was like, oh my God, I had spent probably 2 months doing nothing but reading, researching, watching videos, trying to figure out like what's going on here.
With these ARX machines.
Well, not just with the machines, but just with the approach to the exercise. So there's a lot to unpack.
I know. And that's why I stopped you just to I'm like, hang on, people. I promise you, this is really valuable information. And any client that comes to me, anybody I work with, I recommend trying this, and we can talk more about that. But I interrupted you.
That's
So
okay.
you were saying you worked out for 5 minutes. It's the best workout you've ever done. So now you're doing all this research. You went home. Did you do another workout, or
I did? Yeah, I went back the next week because I ended up calling the owner or getting in touch with the owner, and I was like, look, I want to know everything. I want what you're doing. I want to do in St. Louis.
You knew it after one workout.
I knew literally by the time I was done, within 30 seconds of being done, like boop, finish with the leg press, I was like, oh, this is it.
Were you sweating?
This is my solution. This is how I'm going to be able to have my cake and eat it too. This is how I'm going to be able to serve my country and do the thing that I want to do in the Army and do all the things the Army says I have to do. And I can train clients. People can have access to this amazing exposure of exercise stimulus. And I don't even have to be there because the machines are motorized and they're on the internet. And if I have to be in another city, I can log into the machine, right? And just facilitate the exercise remotely. I've done that a few times. I don't necessarily have to do that very often, but I can. Like the opportunity for me, the technology is there for me to do that. I just knew. It was like the fabric of the universe unzipped in front of my face. And I was able to see myself 20 years in the future. And I knew exactly what it is that I was going to be doing and what it is that I was going to achieve to help people get what they need. Because people are not, a lot of people think that they're overweight or they're too fat, right? I don't think we have a fat epidemic in the United States. I mean, people are definitely overweight and their diet is not good and the quality of the water, like I get that. And I have room for that to talk. But people need to understand they're not too fat. They're under muscled.
That's exactly it. And they're not fat. They have fat.
Right.
Some people are like, I'm fat. It's like, you aren't fat. You are John. You are Sam.
Yeah.
You can change your physique if you fuel your muscles.
Sure. Strength is so important. And you don't know how not strong you are until you develop some strength. And it's not, so again, and like as I got older, as I got a little bit wiser and more mature and my priorities changed in my life, I realized that being strong, for the sake of it, for the sake of itself, isn't really that important necessarily, because there's not a whole lot of things in life that you're just like lifting hundreds of pounds or pushing hundreds of pounds for. Like to be able to do that for like a life or death situation is maybe important, but it's about quality of life. It's about having physical independence and being able to do the things when your body or when your brain asks your body to do a thing, that your body can respond and do the thing that your brain is asking it to do without pain, discomfort, or being able to hurt yourself or overexert to the point where you might injure yourself. That's why strength is important. And we just have so many people that aren't strength training, one, at all, but two, properly, that people are being told constantly because of advertising and marketing and all the things that, you're fat, you're overweight, and you need to look like this, and you need to be able to fit into these things.
Go do cardio, do a diet, do a low calorie diet.
And it's just like, it's doing more harm than good.
Correct.
But it's making a lot of money.
Of course.
And so it's like, for me, the biggest challenge is just, it's education, because I had to be re-educated and I had to unlearn 20 years of what I thought was the right answer for fitness and what I thought was the right answer for physique and what I thought, all these things and health. And it's like, oh, I was way off. I was spending way too much time, way too much money. I was over supplementing, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, if I would just apply if I would have known these principles 20 years ago, the days and the hours and the months and the years that I could have saved and been more productive doing other things, I'll never get that time back. So I get so passionate and I get so like almost over the top, because it's like I know I have the answer. And if like, let me show you, let me show you what the answer is. And I try not to like overburden people with it, but
yeah, no, it's, and I'm sold on it, right? Like I remember meeting with you. We did a health and wellness roundtable here at the club. We belong to an entrepreneur club, and I remember you know, doing your spiel, and I'm like, that's too good to be true. And everyone's like, have you tried BioFit? Have you been to John's? And I'm like, no. But I'm like, hey, I think I found you afterwards and was like, what is this? Because I'm always looking for efficient ways to work out, not only for myself, but for my clients, because I love group fitness. I teach group fitness. I love the rah-rah. I love the woos. I love the sweating next to people.
Right.
But not everybody does. And not every day calls for that. I don't have time to do that every day. I'm a single mother of 3 small children. And so I went to your facility and tried it. And what was amazing to me were all the different type of people coming in and out of there. Not everybody looked the same. They were all not same age, very different demographics coming in there. But I basically interviewed all your clients that were in there. I'm like, who are you? Why are you coming? How long have you been coming? Tell me about this. And the stories that they would tell me about, you know, their weight loss, which a lot of people are really stuck on that weight loss. Trainers like us know that we're trying to build your muscle and get you stronger. But from a lot of people's perspective, saying to me how much weight they've lost, how their clothes fit better. And it was couples, it was husband and wives coming together and changing their lives together. It really spoke volumes to me. And I'm like, I've got to do this. Like, I need to look into this. And that's why I've referred people to you. And I talk about it on my Instagram page, and I try to post every time I'm there because I do believe in it. It is an efficient workout. I can get in there and be done in 35 minutes and get a full body workout. Because and let's explain to people why that happens in layman terms, so they understand. Like, why is someone like me able to come in, do a few arm exercises, a few leg exercises, and push myself to muscle failure? Can you explain the mechanics behind the machine?
Yeah. So it's important that it sounds sometimes, I at least I think that it sounds sometimes like it's like I'm bragging or I'm embellishing, right? Because it's like, I believe this to be the best exercise stimulus for the human body that exists in the world, period. Like, there's nothing that compares. I'm not saying it's the only thing you should do, because I think there's all sorts of other modalities that you should make time for. But when it comes to strength training, when it comes to the efficacy, when it comes to the safety, there's literally nothing that compares.
And I agree.
And it doesn't have anything to do with John. John's not a genius. I didn't develop the technology. I didn't develop the machines. I didn't develop the type of exercises that we do. I'm standing on the shoulders of the giants that are Arthur Jones, who is the original inventor of the Nautilus machine. And he is the one who tried to normalize engaging the negative or the eccentric part of the exercise. And that's the part of the exercise that no one is doing in the gym. And I know that's a blanket statement. When I say no one, I mean like the vast majority of people, right? They don't even know what negatives are. They don't use them. They don't do them because it requires knowledge. It requires a spotter, and it requires doing work that is very uncomfortable for the body, because it's what's doing the majority of the damage to the muscle tissue. So I'll preface it with that. But the reason why these exercises are so good and they're so efficient is because we're using motorized resistance. You are fighting not weight, not gravity. You're fighting a motor. It's a winch. So it's a fight that you're never going to win, right? So when you're pushing against basically a trash compactor, and the trash compactor has so much torque and force that you'll never win. And eventually, if someone isn't there to push the button to stop, you'll die, because it's just going to keep coming, right? What makes the exercises so effective is that we are able to give people the perfect amount of resistance that their bodies are capable of producing in both directions of the movement for the contracting and the elongating of the muscle that fixed weights or free weights simply just cannot do. I mean, it's a physics problem. Like you can't replicate one for one with regular weights or a weight stack. You can get close, but you cannot replicate what these machines can do. It's the technology that's winning, right? It's the difference between using candles and electricity. It's the difference between using one horse or an F450. Like it's just technology, and it's a technology that is new. It's a technology that not a whole lot of people know about. But what's great about it is that the machine gives you exactly what you put into it. So if you push with 100 pounds of force, you're going to get 100 pounds of force back, whether it's with your arms or your legs. If you pull with 300 pounds of force, you're going to get 300 pounds of force back. But what a lot of people, and I didn't know this, but what a lot of people don't understand and what they kind of, they get confused about is that when you're on the machine, the amount of force that you experience through your entire range of motion changes. Because depending on what the angle of your elbow joint or your knee joint is at, your ability to produce force or to resist a force coming at you or going away from you changes. So you're not going to be as, like, if I were to push your feet as close to your chest as I can possibly get without hurting you, the amount of force that you can produce in that position is significantly less than the amount of force that you can push as your feet go farther away from you. And so again, because the variable force changes that the machine gives you based on where you are in your range of motion, you're getting you're using the perfect amount of weight, and you don't even have to choose the weight. Right? It's just you push, and however hard you push is what you get back.
Totally.
And so there's that. Then there's the algorithm of knowing when to stop the exercise, because again, there's a diminishing return to exercise. There is a point in which you are on the beach and you are sun tanning. There is a point in which you are no longer tanning, but you're burning, right? Nobody wants a sunburn, but everybody wants a great tan. Imagine being out on the beach, right? You're all by yourself and you're naked, right? You're doing some sunbathing and you're laying down, face down, and you're out and you're tanning. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes and taps you on your shoulder and says, it's time to turn over. It's time to turn over. You have received the perfect amount of UV exposure from the sun to get the exact shade of tan that you want to be. Now it's time to turn over. And if you don't turn over, you're just going to burn, right? Well, the point of doing that is not to burn. And if you burn, and if you have a sunburn and you go out and you try to tan a sunburn, it only gets more burnt, right? Well, it's the same thing with exercise. The reason why you burn is because you have damaged your skin tissue to a point in which it is now damaged. It is not now turning the melanin darker. Well, with exercise, in order to build stronger muscles or to have more muscular endurance, you have to damage muscle tissue. You have to literally tear muscle tissue down, micro damage your tissue. And if you don't do it enough, then it won't provide the body the stimulus or the signal to regrow and to rejuvenate and build better. And so that's all we're doing is we're taking all of the science, all the nerd stuff about exercise and physiology, and we're deploying it with this incredible technology called motorized resistance exercise. And we're giving people the perfect amount of weight, so the perfect resistance every single time. We're giving them the perfect amount, the volume of the exercise is the perfect amount, because I know, based on how the software and the algorithm tells me, I know when to tap you on your shoulder. I know when to stop the exercise and when you have done enough damage. And then we're doing it correctly because I'm setting your range of motion. I'm setting you into the form and forcing you to have to do each exercise properly with no risk of failure, or I'm sorry, no risk of injury.
Because the point is to get to failure, which you do get to failure.
Yeah. Well, you want to bring every exercise you do, You want to get to the point in which your muscles can no longer productively produce the force. Basically, you die. Like your muscles just don't work anymore, right? Not literally, but from a physiological and an anatomy perspective, they stop working. And so because of those three things, the technology and the machines allow for us to just be able to do that. I mean, just with like laser precision, no matter who the person is. I don't care if you're 400 pounds and you have never worked out a day in your life. I don't care if you're 12 years old and you can only push 40 pounds worth of force. My client range is from 9 to 90. And it's men and it's women and it's people who are D1 athletes or former professional athletes. And it's people that have never exercised literally a day in their life. Women who are osteoporotic, who have got crazy fragile bones and they've been to the doctor and it's like, well, it's almost too late now. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't do some strength training, then life is going to be really hard for you. Like what I love about this technology more than anything is it doesn't discriminate against anyone. There are certain exercise modalities that do discriminate, right? CrossFit isn't for everybody, not necessarily because you don't want to do it, right? You don't like the culture, you don't like the Kool-Aid or whatever the thing. Some people literally can't do CrossFit. Some people literally can't use a row machine. Some people shouldn't be doing those things anyway, but like some people don't like the boot camp stuff. Some people don't like the culture of the big box gym.
Right.
There's something for everybody.
Absolutely.
Right. But like what I provide is if you don't have time and you don't know what you're doing and you don't want to be in the big gym, and if you don't have the time or don't want to commit the time for an hour a day, multiple days a week, the solution that I provide is just, okay, 20, 30 minutes a week tops. And you'll never hurt yourself. You'll know that you're doing it right every time. And you're going to get the perfect amount of volume literally every single time. And then I have metrics. I have data. I have objective, definitive data and metrics for every microsecond that you're under load to show you what progress you're making. And if you're not making progress, well, then something's wrong. And it's probably something in your environment or your behavior, in that you're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
You're overstressed. Maybe your diet could probably be tweaked, right? You're not hydrated, or it could be time of day. There's a lot of variables that go,
or the workouts are too close together.
Or
right?
Or you could, that's probably the most important one, is you're under recovered, right? You're still sunburned. So stop trying to tan sunburns with exercise, because if you're exercising and you're not seeing progression week over week, then something's wrong. You're probably just doing it too much.
Yeah. And it is that wiring in our brain of where more is better. A lot of times with a lot of things where we think more is better, and it's not the case.
It really isn't, especially when it comes to exercise. And that was the hardest lesson for me to learn, for me to shift from being 20 hours a week minimum. It was a part-time job. I would work out no less, sometimes 3 times a day. I would work out during my lunch break. 3 times a day, 2 times a day. I was working out every single day without fail. To go from 20 hours to 20 minutes is a significant shift. Mentally, it was a hard shift because I didn't know what to do with all this extra
with your time. Totally.
I figured it out over time, but like that was the hardest part.
Business.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But that was the hardest part,
right.
Was like less is more. But the less has to be really intense. It has to be very deliberate and intentional. And when you do that, when you can find your zone, right? And that fortitude to like just work your ass off for 15, 20 minutes, that is enough for the whole week. And when I say week, I mean, it could be 5 days for some people, it could be 7 days. For some people, it can be 2 weeks.
Yeah. It depends on where you're at.
Yeah. Not everybody recovers and rejuvenates the same.
But the idea is that you build up, and you can do maybe twice a week. I know that's kind of what I thought in my head when I initially started doing this, was once a week. And then I did try to come do it twice a week. And you were like, You can't. Your body's not there.
I mean, you can physically do it.
Correct.
It's
but you're
just
not getting.
it's not productive.
Correct.
Right.
So it's a
I mean,
waste of your
even
time.
I mean, there's even a point of like drinking water that becomes unproductive.
Right.
Right. Like
Right.
you can drink too much water.
Right.
Like there are certain things that are good for you. You can take too many multivitamins.
Mm-hmm.
You can take too many aspirins. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's less in the right concentration and in the right dosage, right? Less is more.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to let your body do the things and go through those metabolic processes in order to, manifest those results.
Yeah, and optimize your training.
And
right?
it's a huge mental shift for a lot of people because, again, it's gimmicky. It feels like it's a silver bullet.
Right.
It's too good to be true. Trust me, I know because I was that guy.
Right. And now you've invested and you have, okay, let's talk about, there are how many studios here in St. Louis area?
So I have 3.
3.
We have one in O'Fallon on Highway K. We have one in Arnold, which will soon be in Fenton at Adventure Unknown, which I'm super pumped about. We're just going to relocate that one. And then our flagship, like our main studio, is in Richmond Heights. It's at Big Bend and 40, Highway 40.
And that's the one I've been to. So for those of you in St. Louis, that is where those studios are. If you are not in St. Louis, what do they need to Google to find these machines?
Either, I would say at the present moment, because there's only 2 companies in the country that manufacture these particular types of machines. The brand of the ones that I use is called ARX. It stands for Adaptive Resistance Exercise. It's a company out of Texas. Just Google biohacking gym or ARX.
Okay.
ARX near me. There's only maybe 100 in the country. And so, like, depending on,
studios or machines?
Machines.
Okay.
And so, like, if you're in California, Texas, Colorado, if you're in Manhattan, like, these aren't, they're around. But if anybody has any questions or if you want to find help, if you want me to help you find one, I'd be more than happy to do that because I refer people. I have a lot of clients that are business owners and executives and investors, and they travel a lot.
Right.
And so when they're out of town, if they're going to be out of town longer than a week, then the first thing they ask me is like, hey, if I'm going to miss my workout next week, this is where I'm going to be and this is where I'm going. What do I do when I get there?
Is there a machine there?
Right. So I reach out, I find people,
Yeah.
I get them their medicine no matter what.
That's awesome. So you don't have to be in St. Louis. There are in other parts of the country. So what are people thinking from an investment standpoint? So you guys offer per session, monthly? Like how does that work?
So we charge per session, but it ends up becoming or feeling like a monthly subscription because you figure if you're once a week, right, we charge $50 a session. So it's a 30-minute personal training session. We'll call it that. It's for lack of a better term, personal training session, $50. And so if you come once a week, which most of our clients do, then it becomes a $200 a month membership.
Expense.
But on top of that, we have other machines. We have a sauna, we have a Fit 3D body scanner, we have, accountability. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that.
Correct.
But what you're paying for is the time of the facilitator and the time on the machine. So it's about $200 a month. Okay.
And so this would replace, get ready, people, going to the gym and doing those weight exercises on your own.
It would, yes, it would replace strength training.
It can
in any other capacity. Now I have, obviously, people, they're like, once a week, I want to do more than that. I have the time, I have the inclination, I'm motivated. What else should I do? Okay, great. Anything you want. Anything you want. If you like to run, do that. I don't necessarily recommend running a whole lot because depending on how old you are and what your goals are, because running is really more damaging than it is benefit. But if you like doing it, do it. If you like to walk, walk. If you want to go hike, hike. If you want to do yoga, do that. Pilates, great. If you want to go to Orange Theory, cool. You want to go to F45, awesome. If you want to go to do whatever it is that you want to do, but just know that the strength training, the heavy thing that is going to damage the muscle tissue in your body, the check mark
is already checked.
The box is checked.
So if you go work out with your buddy at Lifetime or somewhere else, just know that your body's going to need more time to recover before you come back and do it efficiently at BioFit.
Yes, that's the key word. Productively and efficiently. or I would say more effectively than efficiently, because again, like you can work out on the ARX machine at BioFit every day. I mean, you have the physical capability of doing it, but again, the diminishing return is that you're just doing more damage to the tissue than is what is necessary.
There's not enough time for it to repair.
And you're just never going to be, you're going to be in a what's called a catabolic state all the time. Your muscles are just going to be at, say 40% capacity at any given time. And you're never giving them enough. It's like having a scab, right? And you're just picking the scab and you're never letting it heal, never letting it heal.
Right.
And then it becomes a scar.
Right.
Well, it's like if you put some Neosporin on it, right?
Let it heal.
And you put a Band-Aid on it and you don't touch it, don't look at it. In a couple of days, or depending on how deep the cut is, a couple of weeks, it's gonna heal. It'll completely go away.
Yeah.
And the muscles are the same thing. It's just tissue. It's just tissue. It's just like skin.
Makes complete sense.
I know, but I didn't know that either. That's why I was like, how can this be so simple?
Right.
How can it be so simple and easy and logical? And I had never heard about it. It's like, for me, I don't know, you know who Nikola Tesla is, right? Well, who did you learn about first? Did you learn about Edison first, or did you learn about Tesla first?
Right.
You learned about Edison first.
Of course.
Right? Everybody knows about the light bulb, and everybody knows Thomas Edison. Well, where do you think Edison got all of his ideas from? Tesla. Tesla's the greatest. He's the greatest guy. He invented everything. But nobody knows about him because all of his inventions and all of his genius and all the contributions that he gave to the world were suppressed because he tried to give the world free energy, and he tried to make it so that everybody could have everything that they needed, and there was no money in it. That's why Edison was so well known, because he figured out a way, right? That if you want to get like tinfoiled hat, right? Like through, JP Morgan and Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, like all back in the day, like he was able to make them money. So they invested into him. Tesla stuff, no money. Because it was all free. Bluetooth is everywhere. The frequencies are already out there. You just have to tap into them, right? It's the same thing with this exercise stuff. Arthur Jones is the Nikola Tesla of exercise. He figured out that the negative, the eccentric part of the movement, is it's the hardest. It hurts the most. It's the most uncomfortable, right? Hurt and pain are not really words.
No, it's uncomfortable, and you're going to probably maybe cuss a little bit.
But then you have all these other guys who are all about volume, right? The big box gyms, the Joe Weeders, the guys who are pumping out the Flex magazine.
Which is fine.
Which is totally fine.
This is one aspect.
But it's a community and a culture that is a super minority. Whereas the rest of us now, but like most people, they don't want that. That's not their flavor. And besides what it is that I do, in my opinion, there isn't a solution for everybody else. If you don't want to go to the gym and you don't want to go to the boot camp stuff, and if you just want to be strong and you want to be able to use your body in an effective way,
and only allow 30 to 40 minutes a week, essentially, like it is a silver bullet, but it's not without hard work. It's a mind shift.
Yeah, you're going to get out of it exactly what you put into it. And I love the way you just put that. It is a silver bullet. If there ever was one, if there was ever a one thing, a one-all, solve-all for exercise, motorized, not John, not BioFit, motorized resistance technology and exercise done with an experienced facilitator, slowly and intensely. No matter your age, no matter your experience, no matter your condition, no matter what previous injury or current injury you have, it's irrelevant. This technology trumps everything. But until you feel it,
and actually
until you actually experience it, it just sounds ridiculous.
So do you offer first time free? Is that something you do? So
I offer the whole first week. Quite frankly, I mean, I think it's obvious when somebody's trying to take advantage of a good thing or take advantage of the situation. I will offer as many sessions as it takes. I'll give somebody 3 months free. If that's what it takes to convince them, like if they're that stubborn and they're just like, well, I'm not really sure, these results, I don't care. Eventually you're going to understand. You're going to, if you trust me, trust the process, and give me an opportunity to show you what is possible, not just in terms of the amount of time that I can save you, but show you what you're actually capable of doing physically with your body without fear of injury. I mean, most people who come in, even though I offer them 2, 3, 4, 5 free sessions or a whole week, whole month, or whatever, most of the clients that I have the exact same reaction that I had. As soon as we're done with the demo, which is the big 3, right? We do a chest press, we do a pull, and we do a leg press. Within 5 minutes of being done with the leg press and like regrouping themselves, how do I sign up? How do I get started right now? It doesn't matter what else I'm doing, what other membership I have. I'm done there. I'm coming here.
And the thing is, some of the clients I've met at your gym drive a long way.
I've had clients drive as far as 45 minutes one direction for a 10-minute workout.
Right.
Because they have to do it once a week.
Right.
And if you take the aggregate of all the time that they had been spending getting changed, going to the gym, spending that hour at the gym, driving back, taking a shower, getting ready to change again, like it is even if you were to drive an hour once a week, 1 day a week, you would still be plus 5, 6, 7 hours a week of more productive time doing anything else that you wanted to do. Because here's the thing, and I don't have a problem admitting this. And so I tell this to some of my clients and they're just like, no, that's not true. I love coming here. And it's like, oh, I appreciate that. And I believe you believe that, right? Nobody likes to work out. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to have to spend the time working out. And that's okay. I don't even like doing that. I don't like the fact that I have to commit even just the 20 minutes that I do. I would rather be doing something else because it's uncomfortable and I don't particularly like doing it.
Yeah.
And I would rather spend my time doing it. But the people who do never regret it. And they do it because it's necessary, because it's preventative maintenance for the body. And they do it because they know that they should. Nobody wants to do it. They do it because they know they should.
Well, and we all should be working out. We all should be exercising.
Yeah.
If we want to live a long and healthy life, you got to use it or you're going to lose it.
Yeah, but I always start from first principles. I know you don't want to be here, and that's okay. But thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up for yourself.
Let's do this.
Let's do this, and let's squeeze all the juice out of what we can right now, today. And then this is the coolest thing. There was a guy, I don't know if you've ever met him. He's a popular guy around town. He's a big real estate investor. His name is Dave Owinian. And he's I met him through my friend Kevin Duragi, who does the Master Investors Tribe in South County. And it was I say this because this was years ago, but it was such a, like, the feeling that I got from him when he had told me this, because it was exactly what I want every single person to experience, because it's what I was able to experience. There's a difference between what someone is capable of or what they think they can achieve or what they can do and what they can actually do if the right circumstances and the right variables and the right environment is placed in front of them. And that is the difference between those two things is astronomical for most people.
Absolutely.
What you think you can do and what you can actually do.
Well, I talk about this in my spin classes all the time, because you think about marathon runners, and I used to run marathons. It's a mental thing. You can run a marathon. If you're physically in good health, you can run a marathon. But you have to believe it to see it and actually do it.
Yeah.
So let's stop here and tell these people, how do they get in a session with you? Do you want them to call you? Do you want them to message you on Instagram? What's the best way to get a hold of you or whomever? The
best way would be to just text me, quite frankly. We can throw my number up there somewhere. Or if you like on our website, BioFitSTL.com, if you text that number, then it goes to Andrew, it goes to me, it goes to all of our trainers. Those messages normally get in, unless you do it at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm sleeping. If you do it anywhere between like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you can expect a response back within the hour most times, because it just goes straight to my phone. But I would invite, go to YouTube, and do some searches for ARX, do a search
ARX,
for BioFit, do a search
biohacking.
for, Arthur Jones, if you really want to nerd out and you want to go into the history lesson of it all, like, just do the research, and if you're intrigued enough, and if you're interested enough, and you want to just come try it, it costs you nothing but your time, which is very valuable for a lot of people. But I can guarantee that you will not feel like it's been a wasted time.
No.
You might determine that this particular modality of exercise isn't for you. Like maybe like the one-on-one or the small group session flavor. Maybe that's not the thing that you necessarily want to experience exercise with.
And that's okay.
And that is completely okay. But my plea is that if you're not strength training,
no matter who you are,
no matter what age you are, no matter what your condition is, if you can only lift 5 pounds, lift the 5 pounds.
Because that is strength training.
Or try to lift 6, right? Try and fail at lifting 6. And eventually you're going to be able to lift the 6 and then go to 7. But if my thing isn't for you, please go find something or someone that is for you. Because strength training is the most important thing that you can do for yourself and for your body, besides breathing air, drinking water, and not eating Taco Bell at cheesy gordita crunches by the by the dozen. Don't do that. But it's just, I believe in it so much. And
absolutely. And that's where you and I are on the same wavelength. Because with my clients, sometimes they want me to be their personal trainer, and I don't do that right now as a single mom with 3 children and business owner. I don't, but I love referring people to you. People that love group fitness, I love referring them to True Fusion or Orange Theory or whatever their flavor is, because at the end of the day, I want my clients to find something that they love, that they want to go do. And again, love to hate, right? Like I love going to BioFit. I hate the workout. I mean, I don't hate the workout, but like it's aggressive.
It's really intense.
It's intense. And like I have to mentally be, okay, here we go. But it's important that people find their jam, because we're 100%. All different. So I encourage you guys to reach out to John. Go to BioFitSTL. You can always reach out to me. The Essentials by Kira is my Instagram handle. And then on Facebook, of course. I'll tell you about my experience. If we can work it out, I'll go with you. I brought friends to come check it out, and they've loved it. So yeah, anything else you want to leave with the listeners today? Any last bit of piece of information, or maybe something that someone has said to you throughout your life that you'd want, that's stuck in your head, that you'd want them to walk away with? I ask that question at the end of all my interviews.
The first thing that I like authenticity. And I like, that's a great question. I wasn't ready for it.
Sorry.
Which is the best. No, I love that, because I like, I reach in and I say, okay, what's the thing that I want to say, but then like, what's the thing I should say, right? So I'm filtering, I'm editing, but I'll be completely honest with the first thing that came to my brain when you asked me that question. And I hope it lands for some people. I'm a big philosophy nerd. Like I love philosophy. I love metaphysics. And like, not that it may sound blasphemous to some, but like Alan Watts, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. But like, he's my Jesus, right? Like his philosophy and his worldview has shaped and formed me and my perspective of who I am and where I belong in this world. It's been the most influential pieces of information that I've ever received. And one of the famous things that he had said was, you are under no obligation to be the person who you were 5 minutes ago. And what I took from that is, like, that's not an excuse to be an asshole, but it's never too late to change. And it's always who and what you choose to do and be. And so you don't ever have to be the person who you were 5 minutes ago. You can always upgrade. You can always change. And if there's something that you don't like about your current situation, whether it's your situation, your emotionally, spiritually, financially, relationship wise, like whatever it is, just make the decision to change, own it. And you don't have to apologize for it. You don't have to justify it to anybody else. You don't have to rationalize it. Just choose it, do it, own it, and be it. And that, when I heard that for the first time, it changed everything for me mentally. And so you are under no obligation to be the person who you were 5 minutes ago.
Like that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for coming and being on. It's been awesome. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Again, this episode was sponsored by BioFit, so thank you guys so much.
You're very welcome.
Please come try it out. It's a one of a kind. Thank you all for listening. Please like, subscribe, send this podcast to anybody and everybody who you think could benefit. Thanks again for listening.